Check test mic 1 2.
It
Oh,
sounds good now. It sounds good now. All right. This is the official start of the show. None of that happened because now that we figured it all out, none of that happened. So, Dad Got Game, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Tell me. So, why did you want to talk about mental health?
so I wanted to chat about mental health because it's something that, as a full-time broadcaster, comes up almost on the daily. At the end of the day, there are many people who are struggling with life circumstances, with depression, with PTSD, with many different things that we as streamers can help to make better for them. Like, there are regularly people who come in and say, you keep my mind off of the hard things, right? And that's ultimately what entertainment is supposed to be about. It's supposed to help us to deal with the challenges that life bestows upon us. And something that I learned early on in my streaming journey was that there were many people who felt like they didn't have a place to belong. There were many people who felt like a source of their anxiety, a source of their depression, a source of the mental health struggles that they were going through, was a direct result of the fact that they didn't feel like they belonged anywhere. And I think that's a big challenge that we have an opportunity as entertainers, as content creators, we have an opportunity to bridge that gap for folks.
What motivates you to do that? I mean, that you have to be really caring and stuff about people, but like what made you wake up in the morning and go like, I want to help other people feel good? Like that's not every person will do that.
That's fair. So originally, when I started going to school, I actually started going to school for pre-med psychology.
Okay.
It's something that I guess I mean, it's a major part of faith too, is the fact that
Yeah.
we're called to help others. As a Christian, I am called to help other people. That's part of what I believe and is part of my faith. But in and of itself, I mean, that's just something that is inherent. I've always had a desire to help other people because at the end of the day, we're all doing life together. Like, we could be across the planet from each other, but at the end of the day, there are many of the same struggles, regardless of what your background is. There's a desire to be a decent human being and to help
Hopefully.
to
Hopefully.
help others through some of the struggles that they're dealing with.
That's beautiful. I love that. And that's very extrinsic. So do you inherently believe that like that's kind of your purpose in the world is to make people feel better and
Oh, 100%. At the end of the day, our job as Christians is to love other people. There's literally no, like, the Bible is filled with rules. It's filled with rules, it's filled with guidance on how to live. But the most important thing that you get out of the Bible, or that you should get, in my opinion, is to love other people. It is our job to do that. And so, if that is at its core what we're called to do, to me, there's no better way to do that than to entertain people on a daily basis and to give them the opportunity to belong somewhere when they had nowhere to belong to begin with. And I think that is the takeaway, or the, what drives me is hardcore my faith and my belief that that's our purpose, is
do
to
you,
love others.
that's beautiful. Do you get a lot of I'm going to be honest with you, do you get a lot of crap for this? Like the whole coming at it from a Christian perspective? Like streaming is not necessarily notorious for being okay with religious religion. Like that's not something you hear very often.
I feel like I have not seen the level of, I guess, persecution, or the level of, I've had more people, let's put it this way, I've had more people reach out to me and be like, I love that you're open about this, than I've had people being like, you're a pile of crap because you're a Christian.
That's good. That's good news because
I've
that's
had
like the
more
opposite.
people, and that's encouraging. That's encouraging to me, because that means that um, not only am I reaching people that are of like mind, but I have an opportunity. I have an opportunity to share with people that aren't of like mind as well, right? I feel like there's a there's a distinct culture going on right now where it seems like it's not okay to be offensive. And I think I think we need to get past that. We need to figure out how to be okay with having differing opinions. I love my community because it's a diverse group of people, and not all of them are believers.
I'm not, and I consider myself part of your community, but I'm not.
Right.
Yeah, and I've never walked away and been like, well, that's it. I've been evangelized. Like, I very much enjoy watching your shows, and I believe in. I think above all, I believe in your principles, and wherever you got them, I don't care if you got them from a troll under the bridge. Like, I'm just happy you're a good person, right? I think at the end of the day.
And I think that's what draws. I think a lot of people are drawn to the idea that I'm not here to preach at you, right? Yeah. That's a topic of discussion that obviously we're talking about how that plays with content creation in my life. But when you come to my channel, I'm not Bible thumping you because that pushes people away more than it helps other people to realize that it's about love more than anything, right? It's about giving that people that place to belong. I love that we have people who aren't of faith who are okay with not being of faith, right? Not being a Christian. There's like, you're here to live your life. I just share my beliefs because that's part of who I am. And I do so under the pretense that I have no expectations that you're going to become a Christian, right? I never, ever, ever want people to come into my channel and be like, this guy's literally trying to convert me today. That is not what I want.
So I consider myself part of your community, and I am a-religious, and that doesn't, I've never felt pressure on your channel, but I've also never felt discriminated against because like I've never felt like I wasn't welcome because I mean, I've also never said something. I think if I had come in and tried to be offensive and tried to say something like, well, God's not real, guys, so like, I don't know, like something really, really dumb, I probably would have gotten the boot, which would be very deserving. Like, as long as you're decent people, it doesn't really matter where anything is coming from. Yeah, as long as there's a discussion.
The funny thing is I actually welcome that opinion. I would love to know why you believe that God's not real, right? And I'm not saying that to have that discussion.
Sure.
The point, I guess the point I'm making is that is something that I'm totally okay with people coming in and saying God's not real. I'm going to just be prepared that I'm going to ask you why, right?
Yeah, like because you're going to have a conversation.
Having that conversation opens up doors, and it also makes people that are not believers know that there are other people who might want to be part of this community that aren't believers, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Like at the end of the day, like, yes, my job is to spread the good news, right? And that's part of my faith. But I'm also very realistic in the fact that I don't ever have an opportunity to do that if I don't build a relationship with you first, and that relationship can't be built on faith.
Because there's more to you. Yeah, you're a whole person. Yeah.
Well, and there's more to life than just faith. As much as a lot of Christians, I think, are afraid to admit that or afraid to let that be known, we all have other things going on in our lives. Like, we have families to take care of. We have people to take care of. There are many other things that go into. We have to figure out a way to survive and make money in order to survive, right? That's a big thing that people, like, they may come into my channel in the middle of a conversation like that, but I hope that they soon realize that that's not what the channel is based around entirely.
I think that's also something that I can learn, because I think this is similar, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but people have come in and been like, well, mental health is stupid, or mental health's not real. And I have definitely taken that with offense and just been like, bro, like, I don't want to hear this right now. I don't want to hear this for the 50,000th time. You're not original. This isn't new. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and prove to you that mental health, because that's just absurd to me. That is a core belief of mine, right? That mental health is real and there's science and all this stuff. But like, also just like to the bottom of my core as a person, like that's absurd, and I don't want to argue with you, and like if you could just like go and not come back, Mr. Troll, that'd be great. But I feel like that is something that I like talking to you, I kind of internalize that as like I could probably be a little bit more tolerant with that, just because somebody comes in and says that with me, like maybe not taking that as a personal attack would be a good idea.
It's challenging. It is. Like at the end of the day, again, I do this 45 hours a week. And on a daily basis, it might not even be faith, but just in general, like people will come in and they will attack you. And dealing with that in the most loving way possible, or the most empathetic or graceful way possible, can be challenging, because at the end of the day, you had a long day, and you do this at night. So this is after your day job, right?
Yep.
You dealt with crap all day, and now I'm going to come home, and now I got to deal with this a-hole in my chat attacking what I believe in very strongly.
Right.
And now I got to deal with that, right?
Right.
I mean, it's a challenge. It doesn't matter how graceful or how much grace you try and give people. We're all going to have those days, myself included. You will find where I will have my days where I'm like, no, I'm not talking about this right now. You can just buzz off.
You could just not be here anymore. Yeah. Please be sure to use exclamation, the letter Q, to ask questions, because I see questions in chat and I want to be sure that we address them. But any kind of question, whether it's general, whatever it is, if you want Dad's opinion on it, definitely be sure to do that. But no, and I totally get that. And do you feel like you kind of have more of an obligation? Because imagine you come into chat and this guy, his panel says like religious and, believe in God. And then you come into chat and this guy says to you like, screw off. I don't feel like talking to you, you a-hole. Like, do you feel like you have more of an obligation to look and talk a specific way, because you're trying to present, you have a persona to uphold, so to speak?
So I've always been very real with people, in terms of like, I don't have a Jesus fish on my car for a reason.
Okay.
Because there are going to be times when I'm driving down the road and I'm going to get cut off and I'm going to slam that horn and I'm going to be like, you like, you're going to have moments, because we're human. And I think the thing that I want to convey the most is that while I am a man of faith, and while I believe very strongly in that faith, I also know that I'm a sinner, and that I'm not Jesus. The ideal of Jesus, or the thought of, like, for those of you who might not know who Jesus is, he was the perfect man, because he was half man and half God. At the end of the day, there was one person who walked this earth who didn't act of human nature, and that was him. Everyone else gets mad, gets pissed off, is going to have a rough day, is going to deal with mental health issues themselves, is going to be sad, and all of those things combined, right? Like at the end of the day, none of us is perfect. And that's why, like, while I do label myself a Christian, and I hope that people respect that, I also don't have the expectation that I'm going to somehow uphold the ideal standards of Jesus myself. I do it to the best of my abilities. I'm going to slip up. That's just the reality of it. We all will. So I set the expectation, but I also am very, very transparent, and I never let that expectation make it seem like I'm ever either above someone or a perfect person, because I'm just not. It's not a thing.
Do you feel like being a streamer makes all this, like, is there something inherently about streaming? The answer could simply be no, by the way. But do you feel like there's something inherently about streaming which makes being religious, like, difficult? Is there anything that's like a challenge that you're like, as a streamer, this is way harder than when I just had a day job and went about my life? And
I think the nature of streaming and being a full-time broadcaster in and of itself is hard enough. I didn't start streaming until I was 34 years old. I've gotten very comfortable in my faith and who I am as a person. And I think that at the end of the day, it's that strength in my beliefs and myself as a person that carries over well into the streaming space. necessarily, faith is only one part of who I am as a person. And I think it's definitely obviously something that drives why I do what I do. But at the end of the day, I don't see it as a challenge as much as something that empowers me to be better and to do better.
Got it. How do you bring that into your streaming, like on a regular basis? Do you do you make it a point to talk about it once? Do you have prayer? Like, how does the fact that you are religious, other than, it kind of permeates you as a person, but how else do you try to really bring that into your streams? Like, are there principles that you're like, these are principles that I uphold in my stream because of my religion?
I don't push it. If it comes up in conversation, I love having those conversations in chat. But at the end of the day, I don't ever make it necessarily a point to bring up explicitly, because again, I don't want to push people away. And I feel like if people aren't ready to have that conversation, that is going to be the first way to cut them off. That is going to be the first way that I shut a door of potentially building a relationship with someone, simply because I was Bible thumping. Like, I love my dad to death, but he did that to my brother. Like, my dad was so passionate about his faith that it pushed my brother away until recently. Like, at the end of the day, when you're overly passionate and you overshare too soon, that is a detriment to bringing the good word to people. And I think that at the end of the day is why, yes, I tag myself as a Christian everywhere so that people know, but I'm also not explicit about it. I'm not over the top and saying, you can only be here if you're a Christian. How Christian would that be?
This is the opposite of what anything the Bible says. Like, really?
Precisely. Right. Exactly.
Right. Oh, I love that. Man, this is why I like you so much. Everybody, I freaking love Dad. That sounds weird in that I'm sure people have said that before.
It's fine.
But in terms of, so I guess this is something you were just brought up in the Christian faith, and or did you like switch religions, or how did you come into religion?
College, actually.
Okay.
I was brought up, I was raised in the Catholic Church, which has its own challenges because it's a very large denomination with a lot of
very old.
Well, it's an older lifestyle, if you will, and there's, frankly, in my opinion, a lot of man-made rules to being in the Catholic Church that don't necessarily jive with what's in the Bible. In college, I attended Campus Crusade for Christ, which was like a college organization. It's a national, college organization that is just really around worshiping God. It's about bringing people and giving people the opportunity to learn. We had Bible studies and stuff like that. And that was when I really got on fire with my faith. And then at the end of my college career, I joined a band and my faith waned. I stopped praying regularly. I stopped, I would still go to church every once in a while. It's not like I ceased to believe in God, but there are moments when in a faith journey that are up and down, right? And I think at the end of the day, anyone who's a Christian knows that, has been through those ups and downs. But for me, it really didn't start until college. That was when I really got on fire from a faith standpoint.
Interesting.
And it's been up and down ever since. I've had my low points. I've had my high points. I'd say I'm stronger in my faith now than I've ever been, but yeah.
Awesome. And then, okay, so you go to college, you're in a freaking band, which totally the kind of badass thing that I thought I would hear from you, but hearing it from you was really cool. So, okay, so you're in a band, and then I guess you start working. You start like a 9-to-5 job.
Well, the funny thing was, so I was going to college. I was Bachelor of Science in Computer Science.
Same as my husband.
Yep. So I was taking my normal 15 to 18 credits every semester. I was actually working 25 hours a week in an internship with Harley Davidson. And then I had the band on top of it, which was anywhere from 30 to 50 hours a week of practices. And we did everything. We recorded ourselves. We practiced. I did the website, the MySpace.
Oh, of course you're a band. You are in MySpace.
Yes, we were a band, so we had a MySpace. And like, I mean, at the end of the day, there was a lot going on at the end of my college career that, I mean, there was no way that church and faith was going to be a big was going to be a big focus, right? And so there's a lot going on. MySpace for life. Absolutely. I'm still dumbfounded MySpace is a thing, honestly, but I mean,
is it around? Is it still around?
It's still a website.
You can like go. I remember my page existed for a very long time until I went in and finally deleted it. I was
the funny thing is our MySpace still exists. I don't know that there's any, like, the music stopped working for whatever reason, but it actually exists out there, which is kind of bonkers, but
that is cool. So what made you stop and be like, I guess boring 9 to 5, here it comes?
Well, 7 years of nights and weekends.
Yeah.
Just to have, we had, I think, 4 lead singers, 6 bassists. We had a lot of just rotating people, and at the end of the day, the kind of music that we made didn't necessarily have a place here in Milwaukee, if anywhere. And so, I mean, it just got to a point where I was like, something's got to give. This just is going nowhere. And I had the desire to do it full time. Like, I would have loved to have been a rock star. Yeah. But that's not where
what happened.
God wanted me to be. So we just stopped doing it. And I mean, I was working a 9 to 5 at that time. So I graduated college in 2007. The band continued through 2011. So for 4 years, I was working 40 hours a week and doing band stuff, which was another 30 to 40. I mean, it was basically a second job.
Yeah.
So I did that for 4 years, and it finally got to a point where Mom, Got Game, and I were like, okay, we are done with this. Because at the end of the day, I was married that whole time.
Oh boy.
I was married in 2007. So for 4 years, she dealt with with all that comes along.
Yeah. So when you're like, I'll do streaming full time, she's like, we got through that.
So the funny thing is that we learned, though, from the band days when it was literally 4 or 5 nights a week of practice and then weekend gigs. We learned from that, because when I started streaming, it was 2 nights a week for 2 hours. That was where I started 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Was 2 nights a week, 2 hours a night, and that was it, right? Because what we learned through the process of the band was that us time was important, and that if we weren't making us a priority, that was big trouble.
Right. You don't make it in the long run if you don't make that a priority. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I mean, the band, other than getting many of my best friends out of it, that I'm still best friends with today, I learned a lot about running a business. I learned a lot about managing people. I learned a lot about what it looks like to dedicate to a second hobby / job, to balancing that with a relationship.
Yeah. That takes a lot.
That's something that we learned, and something that, as this started to kind of take off, we slowly worked up to getting to the point where I said, okay, it makes sense to go full time at this point. It was 2 nights a week, then it was 3 nights a week, then it was 4 nights a week. So we slowly built on that schedule to get to a point where we could manage it in a way that wasn't detrimental to our relationship. Does that mean there weren't hard times? Absolutely not. Mom Got Game's a rock star. She absolutely, I would not be doing this right now if it weren't for her support and the sacrifices she made to get us here. So it's one of those things that takes time and takes working out with a significant other to get to a point where you can succeed.
Yeah. It's a lot of hard work. I don't do what you do. I don't do this full time or anything, and I find it challenging amongst all the other things because as just a streamer, you're not just getting on streaming and getting off. You're talking to other people. You're tweeting. There's 40,000 other things that you're doing that are not happening in the hours of you actually going live. So
right, you are CEO, content creator, marketing manager, IT manager, networking manager, social media manager, on top of I do my best to answer every DM that I get. Sometimes I miss them until they're way too late, and then I don't answer them. But at the end of the day, I answer every DM.
So much.
Right. I answer every DM that I possibly can. And most importantly, to bring this back to the mental health topic, anyone who's struggling with something that DMs me, I do my absolute best to make sure that I'm taking care of those folks. Right. I'm doing my absolute best to make sure that those folks at the end of our conversation end up at a point where they don't do something very, very silly, right? Something they may not have a chance to regret, right? And I'm not alone in this, right? I have got a team of people who work with me on the daily.
Okay.
My mod squad is absolutely some of the most amazing people that you will ever meet. And there was one point where I had 4 of my mods, and we did a manhunt over the internet to make sure someone was okay. So to call in a wellness check and to figure out where they lived close enough to be able to get a wellness check to them, because we were worried about them.
Wow.
And those are the types of things, that I couldn't do by myself.
No.
I couldn't. And so there's a lot more to this than even just myself. I get the DMs. My team helps me to take care of that.
How often does this happen? And do you feel equipped to handle this stuff? Because like that is scary. And that's something that I evangelize on my channel is once a month, I have a little segment where you can come in and you can ask questions about how to handle mental health situations. But yeah, are you equipped to handle it? How do you, because there's a lot periodically. Streamer Twitter will get up in arms and will say like, streamers are not your therapist, which is not wrong, but we are here to support our community. So
right.
Just talk all about that. There's so much there.
I mean, at the end of the day, no, I'm not equipped. I am not a therapist. I am not in a position of having any sort of medical expertise to provide people with any sort of recommendations on how they can get better. However, we have, again, myself included, as part of my community, we have a very diverse community of people who have gone through all sorts of stuff, people who are in the military dealing with PTSD, people who have dealt with depression. My brother and my dad have got seasonal affective disorder. I grew up with depression in my house and seeing what that does to people. I dealt with depression myself. I almost took my own life at one point. Like, at the end of the day, we've all got a diverse set of experiences that makes us uniquely qualified to be empathetic and to help people through whatever it is they're going through, to the point of being able to get the help themselves. What we have come to realize is that there's only so much we can do. There's only so much that we can help support, at which point it's on them, that person, to take charge and to deal with the issue with the resources that we've given them. I've got we've got the National Suicide Line as a command in our chat, because at the end of the day, there are people who come in and say, I think I'm going to take my own life today, right? And we do our best to say, like, I usually dig in and say, how old are you? Because a lot of these kids are in school, right? Yes, that is the command right there.
We have several. We have Help International. We have additional resources. We have resources, because I house a bunch of, if you ever need anything, let me know. I house a bunch of stuff on my website.
I'm going to be DMing you about some of those resources, because I think at the end of the day, these are things that we do our best to help with the resources that we have available, knowing that we're not qualified medically to indeed get people the actual quote unquote help that they need to get past some of these challenges. And I've come to the realization over the last 2.5 years, that I'm not going to be able to help everyone. And that's tough, but it's something that is an unfortunate reality of life, of human nature. People are going to make choices that we would never want for those people, but we do our absolute best for as long as we can to get them the help that they can use to eventually get better. And I mean, we can only hope for the best at that point.
Wow.
So it's tough because I would always have the desire to help someone who is on the verge of doing something like that. I had someone who helped me. And if I didn't have that person, I wouldn't be here talking to you today. But at the end of the day, we do everything that we absolutely can. And when we feel like we've done as much as we can, we leave it up to that person to make the decision that is going to affect the rest of their life.
Yeah. But that's a lot. You're taking on a lot on yourself. I mean, I understand you're a community leader, but that's asking so much of you. That's very, very generous of you. I know where it comes from. It's because people feel like they have the opportunity here to reach out because they're anonymous, because people might not know who they are, because they don't normally talk about this stuff, but they feel close to you because they're literally sitting, you're sitting in an office in your house. They're literally in your house, right, talking to you. It feels very, very personal. And so people open up in these ways, but like, it's scary how many streamers are just not prepared to handle this stuff. Like, they don't have the tools and the equipment. And I'm very sorry that you went through what you went through as well. And I'm glad that you ended up stronger and more equipped to help other people. But like, man, that's not how it should be, right? Like, that's, yeah.
This world is filled with a lot of bad, and that's something that especially in my faith walk, I find myself questioning how is this possible? I mean, as someone who is a foster parent and adoptive resource, the evil in this world that like some of these kids go through at such young ages, it's any wonder this world is messed up. But if we aren't fighting, who is?
You're right.
At the end of the day, if we aren't, we have an opportunity. It doesn't matter if you're a content creator or not. If you as a person isn't fighting to help other people, then you're not helping. Like, that's it.
That's scary stuff. Do you ever just get scared and you're like, I can't do this. This is too much. I didn't sign, because when you sign up to stream, nobody tells you, okay, you're also going to be somebody's mental health coach.
I mean, at the end of the day, in each engagement, if you will, or in each interaction or relationship that we're building, like any relationship, regardless of whether it's on the internet or not, you have to determine how far you're willing to go in that relationship, right? Like I said, I sat down with a few of my mods and literally tried to get a wellness check on someone, and succeeded and said wellness check, but we went to that length because of the relationship we had already built up.
Right.
We can do our best. I think it depends on how long the relationship has been established for. There are a lot of trolls on the internet too.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of people who come in. There are a lot of people who come into the chat and they're like, I'm going to take my life today.
Yeah.
And then they'll come into chat tomorrow. I'm going to take my life today.
Yeah.
And then they come into chat the next day. I'm going to take my life today. And literally this goes on for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, right? And at some point, you make the decision that they're crying wolf and they're just looking for attention.
Right.
And you do your best to give them different attention, right? Or try and deviate the subject.
Right.
To bring things around to something more on a positive note than a negative note. Those are all like strategies that you can try and take to deal with a situation like that. But at some point, you also have to make the decision at what point I'm no longer putting time into this because it's that point. Right?
Yeah.
And I think it depends relationship to relationship to relationship how that goes.
My goodness. I also have resources for mods. Message me for all of the stuff. I have like step-by-step instructions for mods and what to do if there's an emergent. It sounds like your mods already know what to do, but like I have all the stuff. So if I can help you in any shape or form, I'd be very, very glad.
I would love some of the commands, especially like I mean, we've got an international audience, right? So
Yeah.
some of the international resources have been a little bit dicey or hard to come up with. So I would definitely like some of those, at the very least as commands.
Okay. Yeah. Remind me and I will send you all of it, whether email or however the heck. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely. But this is incredible. So you do this and you help people. We were talking about this just before. Oh my gosh, we are like it's already been 44 minutes. We should get to questions. Okay, because I was gonna keep going. Okay, we should get to questions. Okay. All right. If you ask 2 questions, by the way, the second question was not registered likely, so I do apologize, but you will need to ask your second question again because it only this queue only lets me do 1 question at a time. H Bat Dad asked, Dad, what did you do before streaming? Love you, brother.
I was in full-time software sales, and before that I was on the IT side of the house. So I've been uniquely positioned to be in content creation because of that background. Being in IT, you learn how to work with computers and how to fix things that you generally wouldn't know how to fix. And being in sales is a very unique opportunity to build relationships with people you might not otherwise build relationships with.
Neat. Bliffle asks, the opposite of depression isn't happiness. The opposite of depression is connection. What do you think of that?
Oh, that's an interesting.
I think it ties in really well with what we're trying to do here.
I mean, at the end of the day, I agree with that, sort of, but there's also the side of the fact that, like, my family has always been very close, and depression is also a chemical imbalance in the brain that is scientifically proven that if you can get those chemicals to balance out correctly, right, depression goes away regardless of connection. I think connection can help to deviate some of the depression, absolutely, but I wouldn't say that it's mutually exclusive between the two.
I like that. That's not the answer I was expecting. I like that a lot.
I think connection's extremely important in overall mental well-being, right?
Yes.
Connection's extremely important, but I wouldn't necessarily say that they're direct opposites and only direct opposites. I would say that there's more to it than that.
There's more to it than anything and anything, right?
This is true.
Yeah. Damon asks, how do you handle dad life and streamer life?
Not very well.
I don't know. I bet better than you think, but go ahead.
Ask Mom Got Game that question.
Oh.
I will say that I moved to a day only schedule to be better about balance. Because at the end of the day, as many of you know, I am extremely passionate about this community. I'm extremely passionate about my stream, and I'm extremely passionate about the opportunity to grow and to reach people I wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to reach. I want to expand my brand. I want to be one of the biggest streamers on the planet someday.
Yeah.
So that I have an opportunity to bring more to the world than what I have in the past. But that comes at a cost.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, I do my best to balance. I moved to a day only schedule so that I could have more time at night with my wife. But at the same time, that comes at the cost of growth, right? And there are some weeks that are better than others. There are some weeks where every night of the week I'm working. I'm doing emails. I'm trying to stand up the YouTube channel, right? So I'm editing videos and doing those things. And again, very important that if Mom Got Game didn't believe in what we're doing in the community and in the space, I wouldn't have the opportunity to do that. Yeah. And so it comes with a lot of patience, and you do your best to balance as best you can. And that's going to look different for everyone. right? Some people have different familial situations. Some people are single, and that's awesome, and they have all the time in the world to do whatever it is they have. But with 2 kids, a wife, and a mortgage, there are unique there are unique circumstances that come along with that balance.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Do you think there's some kind of like a key to all of it? Like, is it just making sure you communicate? Is it like if somebody was in your position, in your position right now and going, I think I want to go full time. How do I handle the life aspect of it? What would you tell them?
I mean, at the end of the day, like going full time is, it's a combination of things, but the first and foremost, and the unfortunate reality is that if you're not making enough money to cover your bills, you should not go full time.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. Like if you're not already making the money, the only way I could go full time is Mom Got Game got a job. She stopped being a stay-at-home mother so that because she believes in this enough to say, I'm going to go back to work so that you can continue to pursue this because this is where God's calling you. That to me is, that's a sign that I'm headed in the right direction. And I'm fortunate enough to have a wife who's very well educated, who's got her master's degree in accounting, that can go back to work and earn enough so that I don't have to worry as much about the income that I'm bringing in. And I think as far as deciding whether or not now is the right time to go full time is going to be unique to every circumstance.
Sure.
But I will tell you to be prepared that whatever time you're spending on screen, be prepared to spend at minimum half that, if not all of that, off stream.
Yeah. So
if you're going to do 45 hours a week of content, be prepared for an extra 20 to 40 off stream.
Yeah. Yeah.
So make sure that communication is, if you have a significant other, my mom always taught me of the 4 C's: consideration, communication. I never remember all of them, but I know that consideration and communication are 2 of the most important ones, right? At the end of the day, if you're not communicating with your significant other about your intent and you're not coming to an agreement on that intent, you're going to struggle with that. You're going to struggle with that going full time.
That is such a vote of confidence, though. And I've been with my husband for 11 years now. We don't have any children yet, but I remember the moment where I had said that I was going to try streaming because I had to leave my job. And long story I'm not going to go into, but I remember that moment where he said to me, like, yeah, you should try this. If not now, then when? And this is something that, like, I see that it's needed for people. And that vote of confidence, I don't know that there's many things in the world that feel stronger and more empowering than that.
Mama's in the chat. That's the one. Commitment, compromise, consideration, and communication.
Aw, thank you so much for being here. Oh my gosh, I'm blushing. Hope we're doing a good job here. Oh geez. The pressure's on. Okay, Empress Titan asks, have you ever thought about converting to paganism? In our eyes, you would not be a sinner. It's quite normal for you to express those human emotions. Well, that's interesting. I didn't expect, of all the things coming into my stream, I never thought, I did not prepare Dad Got Game to be like, you might be converted to another religion.
Honestly, I am strong. I am at a point in my faith walk that I don't see, this is my truth, right? This is my truth. I don't think there's anything other than, I'm going to fully admit this. I'm going to admit this on the internet, and I hate myself for it. But the reality is that if there's a gun to my kid's head, I still don't know how, like, I am strong in my faith, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to my family and that type of situation, there's very few things in this world that would make me denounce. Denounce my faith.
That is very, you've thought this through. Hold on. You've had time to think this through, to be like, what scenario?
It's not the first time that I've thought about it, because at the end of the day, a faith walk is full of questions. If you're not questioning your faith, you can't be strong in it. Regardless of what your faith is, like whether it's Christianity, Buddhism,
how do you know? How do you know?
Like at the end of the day, there are going to be questions that are going to come up that if you don't know, if you don't know what those answers are, or you aren't capable of saying, I don't know, you're not growing in that. You're not growing in your faith, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm strong enough and believe enough in my faith walk that I don't see any other religion making sense to me. And I've studied not in depth, right? But I've studied in broad strokes other
usually
other
people
religions
who are
and stuff like that.
as confident as you are have usually looked through the other stuff and been like, that's not for me, this is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's why I never push my faith on other people, because at the end of the day, there are many people who believe what they believe, and that's okay. Like, I don't have any reason to share my faith unless you ask me.
Chef Kalista asks, first, do you think streaming has allowed more time for your family? Oh,
sorry. I know I saw the question coming in the chat and I almost speared it. I almost speared it right there, but he's going to ask about that stupid jersey. No, you're not getting a jersey, bro.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so do you think streaming has allowed you more time for family over your 9 to 5? You kind of already answered this, but
I think that it's given me more flexibility. It's given me more flexibility. I don't know that I've taken more time for my family. And that's part of the balance conversation. But I think at the end of the day, it's given me more flexibility to be able to spend time when I can spend time. Versus, I mean, there were times as a sales guy where I was on the road for a week, right? And I didn't get to see them other than through FaceTime, right? Now, most of the time I'm home. I'm going to, I go to a con 3 or 4 times a year. That's the only travel I do.
Yeah, but that's so like 4 days at a time.
Right, exactly. And I get to see my family more because of being full-time.
Got it. Baby Adam asks, when Dad Got Game says he likes to have religious conversation / explain his religion for faith, what are the main points that you have that make you feel are a good argument for Christianity?
My brother should be dead many times over, based on some of the choices that he's made. My parents' house burned down. Here's a story for you. My parents' house burned down. This was a decade ago almost. My brother has a problem saving money.
Okay.
And again, I say these things. I love my brother to death, right? This is not a knock on him, but he as a young man, he had trouble saving money. My parents threw $1,500 of cash he had earned into a book in their dresser. The house burned down. And so his entire savings we thought was gone. That dresser burned to a crisp. Every book in there smelled like smoke. Every thing was charred and destroyed. You know the one book that wasn't touched?
No way.
Where that money was?
No way.
It's a book on faith. There are signs that I have seen in my 36 years on this planet that give me no doubt that there is a God and that he is working in and through us every single day. There are too many signs, and people can call it coincidence. You can call it whatever you want. But in my studying, and in the studying that I've done, and in the things that I've seen on this planet, there are way too many things that I'm like, there was God written all over that, and you can't convince me otherwise.
I have closed the question queue, everybody, so I'm really sorry, but we're already holding Dad over a little bit over his time by making.
We're all right to continue with some of the questions and stuff like that.
All right, so we have 3 questions left, and then we'll let you be, because I do want you to get back to your kiddos and everything. Damon asks, why Mixer and not another platform? I love Mixer, but always wonder how cool dudes like you and others on the platform choose this one.
Initially, I chose Mixer because of the FTL and the interactivity. The fact that I'm an extremely interactive person. You come into my chat, you say hi, I say hi back, unless
That's
I'm like
why
super focused faced or something like that, right? I mean, there are random exceptions to the rule, or unless your name is Green or Callistia, then I just ignore you. But at the end of the day, the technology was what drew me here. At first, I think at the end of the day, that gap has been drastically closed. Twitch now has low latency. There are other platforms that have low latency. There are a lot of opportunities on many platforms. I think you find the platform where your content does well, and you stick with it. I started on Twitch October of 2017 was when I finally said, this is my schedule. I'm sticking to this schedule. That's kind of my streamiversary. At the end of 4 months, I had 750 followers, which on Twitch wasn't bad. That was
That's
actually
not bad
really
for Twitch,
good, especially for Twitch and for doing 2 days a week. That was a really good clip, and that's what gave me hope in the fact that this is something I'm actually decent at. When I came to Mixer, I had 1,000 followers in the first month. And things just started to take off. And I think that was a direct correlation with the fact that FTL technology and that interactivity that people desire, that connectivity that people desire with other people, Mixer enables that very, very well. And so that's ultimately why Mixer for me.
Awesome. Listen, you were one of the reasons. You remember when I was asking around, you had responded to me, and then we had, you had talked to me, like your interactivity, I could speak for it. You had talked to me when I came in, when you were doing web show, that was strictly dedicated to welcoming new people to the platform. I thought that was so cool. And here I am, sucker. Oh my gosh. So H Bad Dad has our second to last question, and he asks, Dad Got Game, as a small streamer, what is the best way to show my faith without openly talking about it?
What's worked for me is that I put that I'm a Christian out there. I put it on my I don't put it on my panels, I put it in my profiles, right? I don't shy away from questions when they do come into the chat, but if you've gotten anything out of this, if you are a person of faith and you are trying to get into streaming, the quickest way that you're going to close people off to having conversations with you is to push it in their face. And I am very, very I think one of the worst things for the Christian faith is people on the corner saying, you're going to hell, you're going to hell. That is the quickest way to tell people, yeah, you're a hypocrite.
Yeah, right.
So my recommendation to anyone who's looking to get into the space that might be a Christian and wants to share their faith is to be very cautious about it. Give yourself the opportunity to have the conversations when they come up, but the more you push it in people's face, the less people are going to respond to you.
So it sounds like be nice is a great way to put that, which applies to literally anybody. So
right.
So be nice and don't act like you're better than anybody else. Nobody likes that.
Pretty much.
Yeah. For any reason, whether you do that because you think you have more followers, whether you do that because whatever. There's somebody said this. Something about followers, and they're like, well, Jesus only had 13 apostles, and look how he did pretty good. So
you're not wrong.
Right. Yeah, and he did fine. Yeah, so if you have 1,000 followers, you're doing pretty okay. Yeah.
It's amazing what 13 people can do.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
The modern Christian faith and Christian church is built on 13 people.
13 mods.
Built on one. Built on one, who then built on 13, who then built on today as we know it. At the end of the day, growing community is not about a follower number.
Yes.
In fact, the only people who care about followers are companies.
And those aren't people by definition.
It's a massive organization whose one job is to sell more product or to sell more services or to up the bottom line so that the shareholders are happy.
Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very, very true. I And I have gotten sponsorships when I only had 800 followers, and I've gotten partnerships that I thought would be incredible with so many followers, and that didn't really work out. So it's not even like a game like of numbers. It just is.
Yep. I mean,
Just do
at
your
the end of
best.
the day, your community are made up of people.
Yeah.
Those people desire connection, and if you're not giving them connection, they won't stay.
Yeah. The opposite of depression is connectivity, huh? Bringing it all back. All right, and our last question. I did take note of it. I didn't take note from who it was. Gosh darn, Emperor's Titan. It was okay. In your faith walk, have you ever just stopped and looked around, seeing all the good things and all the bad things? Is there a part of you that questions your faith and how strong that faith? We kind of answered this, but how strong that faith is when you see how much bad there is going on right now? You kind of did answer this already.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, bad things happen to good people, and good things happen to bad people. Like, there is the hardest thing to decide as a person is how much time you're going to invest into things that are outside of your control.
Ooh, that's just like psychology. Ooh, I love that. Oh, that's right, my psychology.
You can spend all of your time worrying about things that are outside of your control, or you can put all of your time into things that are within your control and make a difference. That's as simple as I can make it, is that you have control of many things in your life. You have a lot of choices to make on a daily basis. Those choices define you as a person. And if you choose to spend your time on things you don't have control over, you're going to be very disappointed. Hard truths, people.
Hard truths. He's like a human Yoda. Can't disagree. Can't disagree. Oh man, that's so great. All right, Yoda, you nailed it. You guys are absolutely wonderful. Thank you, everybody who was here. Thank you, everybody who asked their questions. Thank you so much, Dad, for taking the time out of your day away from your family. Thank you goes to Mom Got Game also for giving us Dad for an extra hour out of her time. So I appreciate everybody. Also, it's your kiddo's birthday, so happy birthday to your kiddo. And just thank you so much for being here. Don't forget, if you feel like the world is dark and nobody can give you the love and the care that you need, go out there and be that example to others. Be the light. Everybody, thank you so much. Thank you so much again for being on, Dad. Appreciate you.
You got it.
Oh my gosh, you're the best. I hope to have you back one day. Thank you.
We will make it happen.
Yes. Thank you so much. Everybody have a wonderful night, and don't forget to be the light. Stick around for the host. Bye.